Good evening, world. How you guys doing? It's Mike Mel. We back in the Spotlight Live. Tonight we got a special guest in the building, Michelle Cadeau, and I'm very happy to have you here. How you doing, Michelle?
I'm very happy to be here, Mike. I'm doing great. Doing great. I'm very honored to be here tonight. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've been trying to reach out to you for a while to get you on. I know you got a lot going on. Your son playing in North Carolina, and you are managing his business affairs and things of that nature. It's a lot. I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on tonight to let us know about your journey and his journey and how y'all got to where y'all at now and some of the decisions y'all had to make. I want to thank you for coming on again.
Yeah, of course.
Um, we like to start off our show every show with a show dedication to somebody in the basketball community that's no longer with us. And tonight, I decided to dedicate this show to one of the great ones, Tom Kikowski. One of the great ones in the game. Tom Kikowski, born January 8th, 1947, and passed away February 8th, 2021. Tom was the benchmark of high school basketball scouting. The NYC basketball guru was known for his quiet demeanor and accurate assessment of players. Known for his NYC ties, Tom could also be seen at big basketball events throughout the Northeast. I haven't met anyone who wouldn't agree that Tom was one of the best people in the world you wanted to meet. His name is carved into the history of amateur basketball, and he will indeed be remembered forever. R.I.P. Tom K, the GOAT. Tom definitely touched my life when I first started getting into basketball scouting. I was with Metro Hoops, and it was in the early 2000s, and it wasn't that many African Americans that was in the scouting part and the media part. So it was times where I had to deal with different adversity, and Tom was one of the guys that lent a hand out to me and always made me feel comfortable and was very polite and taught me a few things on my road, man. And great guy. And it was definitely a sad day when he left us, but he was one of the guys that really pioneered the scouting and the media for high school and stuff. So Tom was definitely a great one. He would definitely be remembered. Tom, this episode is dedicated to you, buddy. All right, let's get at it, Michelle. How you doing tonight again? Can you hear me?
I'm doing
Okay,
great. I'm doing great.
Let's go back from
Holidays
the beginning.
over.
So let's go back to the beginning. You have your son ELLIOT. You have another son that played tennis, correct?
I have an older son, Justin. He plays tennis. He's a senior at Howard University. Yes.
Okay. Two D1 athletes. Great job.
Mm-hmm.
Great job. So let's go with ELLIOT. When did you get him started in basketball and why?
So he started in basketball at he was 8, and it's kind of funny why. So he had played tennis, soccer, football. So that it was flag football. He had played baseball. He had played basically everything he could play. He loved football. He wanted to play football. He was going into I can't remember now, but I think he was going into 3rd grade. Yeah, he was going into 3rd grade, and he wanted to play tackle football. And I didn't want him to play tackle football because back then, I think it has changed a little bit. Back then, they said if you have 2 concussions before 12, you can't play any sport. ELLIOT, as you all might know at this point, is a kid that wants to win. So if he was playing football, he was going to do anything to win. So concussions, I knew were going to come. And I knew if he couldn't play any sports, he would might as well just lay down and, die. So I asked a friend who had a son that played basketball, and I remember it as it was yesterday. I'm driving down Main Street. ELLIOT's sitting in the seat next to me, and I say, ELLIOT, I found a basketball program. They run year round, so you can play basketball every weekend, they practice every week of the year. And he goes, yeah, but I want to play football. I said, yeah, football is 6 weeks a year. That's it. In August, it's really hot. If you play basketball, you play every week because it's an indoor sport. You play all year, 52 weeks. He goes, yeah, but I want to play football, Mama. I want to play football. So we drive a little bit, and he says, Mama, okay, so if I play basketball, I play every week. I said, yep, every week. And if I play football, it's only 6 weeks. I said, yep. So he says, all right, I play basketball then. And here we are.
Wow. Wow. So
That is
what was
really
the
the
first
story on
team
how
that
he
you
started playing basketball.
what was the first program that you got him with?
Yep.
What was the first program that you got him with?
So he played with Hilltoppers, the first Hilltoppers.
Okay, okay, okay. And then how
Yep,
did
he
you
played with Hilltoppers. He played with them 1 year.
And then how did you get over to coming over to Izod?
So what happened was actually he did a summer camp with Vincent Robinson in Bloomfield, and so me and my husband know absolutely nothing about basketball. My husband played tennis when he was younger. He still plays tennis, so we knew tennis. We didn't know basketball, so we didn't know anything. So I took him to a camp in Bloomfield. Vincent Robinson was the coach, and he. So at this point, I think Elliot is going into fourth grade. It's in the summer, so he's played with Hilltoppers for 1 year, I think. And he says, or maybe two, I can't remember, but something like that. And 2 years, yeah. So Vincent says, what program does he play with? And I said, well, he plays with Hilltoppers. And he said, well, he's pretty advanced. You probably could, play him on a different level. And I didn't know there were levels to AAU at that time. So I said, okay. So he said, I have a friend, Brian. I'm going to have him come by and take a look at him next week. So Brian apparently came by. I didn't know that. He said, yeah, he liked him, but Elliot was going into fourth grade, and Brian's son, Mo, and the kids that he played with, they were going into fifth grade. So
Okay.
I don't know if you remember, ISOD didn't have a middle school. They only had a high school. So they wanted to start fifth grade because Mo and his friends. So we went to the tryouts. Elliot made the team. Him and Tahad made a team. But there was no fourth grade team, so they had to play on the fifth grade team. So we started with ISOD in fourth grade, playing fifth grade, and then the following year they played fifth grade again. And then we stayed with ISOD and had a very, very good run with them. We wanted to stay with them for high school. Unfortunately, things happened, and Coach Brian got sick, and there wasn't really a high school team. So, but that's how we got over to ISOD.
Talk about playing with ISOD with the 8th grade and winning the Under Armour championship.
So I wasn't at that trip for whatever reason, but because usually I go to everything, but my husband went for that one, and they won, and I didn't understand how big that was because again, we didn't really know that much about basketball. So they won that, and that was great. And then the year after that is when Elliot started with Lightning, and they won the made hoops. So him and Tahad actually won Under Armour and Nike because it was middle school, back to back, which was kind of like cool, I thought.
So when you had to break the news to Brian and them at ISOD that you was going to play with the Lightning and over in the made hoops thing, how did that feel, and how was that situation?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that has always been like tough. Both Elliot and I are very emotional people. We're very, if we love you, we love you. We loved Brian and all of ISOD. We loved all the teammates. What happened was Elliot really wanted to play made hoops because that was brand new back then. He really wanted to play made hoops. So he played with Lightning that year because that was actually the year he reclassed. So he stayed back in 8th grade where Mo and all of them went on to 9th grade. So that one was like a kind of like a natural progression that he played with made hoops, and he played with Lightning for made hoops. And then Brian got sick, and there was no high school. So we combined, ISOD combined with Rio at that point. And for us, it made more sense to stay with Lightning and go straight to play EYBL than to get to know new coaches. If Brian had been healthy and Brian had gone to Rio, we probably would have ended up going there, but he didn't. But I remember that call. I dreaded it. It probably took me 2 weeks to make that call. I know that it was really, really emotional. Brian understood, as I said, he was sick at the time, so he wouldn't have had time for kind of to take care of us anyway. And I think in hindsight, it was the right thing to do. And but it was very emotional. It was very, very, very emotional for both me and Elliot, and I think for Brian too, to be honest.
So right after you do that, then you make that decision to, when you reclass the next year to play with the Lightning. Talk about what went into that decision.
Oof. So for years we had, and I'm gonna be straight. So for years we had been told you have to play Nike, you have to play Nike, you have to play Nike. Eventually you have to play Nike. That's what we were told. Again, me and Elliot didn't know anything, which has been a blessing and a curse, but I think mainly a blessing, to be honest with you, because we've always done what we felt was right to do for us. We didn't have anybody we had to answer to. We never owed any favors to anybody. We had never, it was just us. Like, and this is what we're going to do. So that was also tough, actually. And I don't know if those people are watching, but I've always had a circle around Elliot. And that actually started with Vincent Robinson and the late Mike or Mickey that worked with him. When Elliot left the first club he was in, he was young, and I probably could have done it differently. I emailed them because I didn't really know what to do. They got very, very upset. I remember they blocked Elliot on social media, and he's 8, 9, and I just felt bad for Elliot because he wasn't like Elliot. This was just, it was just stuff we had to do. So I created a circle around Elliot that wasn't necessarily, or that wasn't attached to an organization or a school or anything. So in that circle, at this point, I had DJ Sackman. I had Chad Babel from Made Hoop. Even though he is connected to Nike, but he was always with us. He was always a straight shooter. I had, who else was in the circle at that time? One of the guys from Sweden, Artin, was in that because he was like totally outside of, So I needed people in that circle that had no skin in the game. Wherever Elliot went, it wouldn't matter to them. So I remember being on the phone with Chad a lot. I was on the phone with, obviously with Lightning. I was on the phone with DJ. I remember DJ wasn't really that much into middle school basketball, but he was kind of like reaching out to his people to see what they thought. And the consensus was kind of like Elliot needs to kind of go to Nike. And it was kind of because that Rio merger and Brian not being the coach, it was kind of a natural thing. So our plan was to play with Lightning during the 8th grade session. So, and this is something that I think is important to, and we're going to talk a little bit about the backlash of his reclassing, right? But that was the only time that he played 8th grade. It was the Made Hoops that 8th grade session. And then the plan was to go straight into Lightning that spring and play high school. However, there was no season that spring because it was COVID. So he couldn't get into, so he went in and played with Lightning as a freshman. He played 17U right away that year. So he literally went from 8th grade Made Hoops to U17 on EYBL.
So when you make the decision to finally say, all right, we're going to do this reclass thing, what went into the reclass decision?
So mainly, totally honestly, Elliot was at the academy, at the first academy that I created at one of the it was a powerhouse school back then. He everybody in the class of 2022 came down to 2023. Like literally every player that was a good player in New Jersey, New York, around here came down. And he said, Mama, my goal is to be a top 5 in the country, top 10 in the country. I think I have to reclass. So because all of them came down. So I said, all right, but we got to do this purposefully. So we had a list of stuff that needed to be done. We had goals. We had he had certain goals that he had to hit, that he felt he had to hit that year. He was in the academy, which was a full-time basketball academy. So they did their core classes, and then they did 4 hours of basketball and strength and conditioning and all that every day. So it wasn't like he just reclassed and just like, and he also never took 8th grade classes that year. He had already in 7th grade actually started taking high school classes. So, and we were very intentional with that as well. That's why, and we'll talk about that later, that's why he was able to reclass up this year and just, have no problem academically to do so.
Okay, so once he did the reclass, then he started making his mark. Mm-hmm. What kind of backlash did you receive?
Yeah, that kind of like hurts me because it's a few years ago now. So I try to, that was really, I don't think for him it was that bad, but for me it was really, really, really hurtful. And it was adults. It was specifically one adult that started it. And this person will, the person did burner accounts on Instagram and burner account after burner account. Everything ELLIOT posted. ELLIOT could literally post like a candle. And this person will go, "You're a reclass" underneath it. Like, aren't you supposed to be in class of 2022? And I think because ELLIOT was a high level kid, we try to talk about, because everybody in his class, everybody literally on that made hoops team in 8th grade was reclass. Literally every single person we played against was reclass. That was just, that was just the way it was. So I think here up in New Jersey, up north, I don't know how it is anywhere else, but that's how it was here. And it hurt me. I got really irritated sometimes. Sometimes I told people I spoke my piece. I think for him, it wasn't that bad. It was just, I remember one time he had a TikTok, and this had now spread. And anything he posted just said, "You're a reclass, you're a reclass, you're a reclass." And he gave that up. I think he had like 14, 15,000, and this is years ago, followers. He gave that to a friend who just like kept it dormant for a little bit and then started it back up again. And we always kind of said, all the good players have haters, and we just had to look at who is it that does this, because something we have realized is it's never anybody that's better than you that's irritated that you reclass. It's always somebody that's back there, right? So, but for me as a mom, it's like this kid, and him, a lot of people know him. There's not a lot of kids that work much harder than he has worked. He's a 6'1" point guard. He's not a 6'5", 6'9", whatever. He doesn't have a dad that's a NBA player or a basketball coach. He has a mom who doesn't really know anything about sports. He's done this all by himself. And for that to always be, "Oh, he's a reclass, he's a reclass, he's a reclass." It's like people putting up posts on Instagram with his birth date down to the second, like crazy stuff. Yeah, it was. I'm sorry, that's a touch.
No, it was good. No, you need to express that what you went through, because people need to see that you are where you are right now, but everything wasn't rosy in this journey. You know what I'm saying?
But the thing is, the boy played. He played national team basketball. He played U17 from the time he was a freshman. He's never really played his true grade, reclassed or non-reclassed. So, and that's something that I think if you reclass your child, especially if they're good, like think about that. And as a family, talk about like, all right, this decision that we've made to reclass ELLIOT, this is a business decision. It is our decision. And nobody else has anything. Nobody's paying my bills. Nobody's paying for him to go to school. Nobody's paying a trainer. I do. So nobody else has anything to say in it. But at times it's been rough. At times it's been rough, for sure.
So yeah, and I want to thank you too for also letting them do the Diary of the Baller. That was
I love
that. That was definitely good. One day I'm gonna do a post of like all the different kids that did it, because I'll be seeing a lot of kids now. And then I'll be forgetting they did it. And then when I put their name in on the website, it comes up, and I'll be like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a lot going on in my life during that time. So, and I also think that his impact was so big. The last time I saw a reclass with that kind of impact early on nationally was probably Isaiah Briscoe. So he went through a lot of that kind of stuff too. When you got that heavy impact and you shoot that high, once you do it, it's gonna come with that kind of response from a lot of different people. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I definitely understand that. Now it's time you got this hot name. You then played reclassed, and now you got to try to pick a high school. How did you come down to picking Bergen Catholic? Because when I was growing up and when I first started in basketball, Bergen Catholic was super known for football. So
Oh, it's
how did
still
you?
super known for football. Still super known for football. Still. So that was a little so actually we didn't have Bergen on our on his like list.
Okay.
He had a few schools. He went to a few schools for like student for a day, whatever it's called. And
Okay.
there was one that was really high up on his list, but when he went, he said, "No, Mom, I can't do that." He didn't feel like he was. He felt like the smiles of the teachers and stuff were fake. He felt like it wasn't. It was a little bit, yeah. And then actually, one of the ISOD parents reached out to me and said, "Hey, my son is at Bergen. The coach is asking if there's any way he can talk to you because in New Jersey you can't really recruit, right?" So she was. I don't know exactly how she worded it, but I texted because this is something that Elliot and I have said from day one. We are going to talk to anybody that want to talk to us. If you are nice enough to reach out for my child, if that's for high school, if that's for college, if that's for an NIL deal, we're going to talk to you. We're definitely going to hear you out because yes. So we spoke to Billy Armstrong at Bergen, and we just liked what we heard. He was actually the first coach for me. He was the first coach that did not promise Elliot anything. He said, "You'll have a spot at the varsity team for sure, but I can't promise you starting or how many minutes you're going to play. That's going to be all up to you, like what you do and what you show, coming in here." And for me, that was kind of like really important because I felt like, I always needed Elliot to stay humble and work and like know that I'm doing this because I worked. I got this spot because I worked for it. And then Elliot really liked Billy. I really liked Billy. My husband really liked Billy. So it was between them and St. Peter's at the last minute. St. Peter's was rough because it's in the middle of Jersey City. It was hard to get there. We didn't know. Bergen had actually a van that stops right here on Garden State that would pick him up. So that kind of like, made it easier to kind of pick that as well.
So you get to Bergen Catholic, season start. Now you got to deal with this COVID thing. How was that experience?
So he played, I think they played like 6 games because it was COVID. So there weren't that many games scheduled. And then also I remember Don Bosco got COVID, so they couldn't play us. We got COVID, so we couldn't play one game. One game was a snowstorm. And parents couldn't come to the first couple of games. I think like the last, like maybe 3 or 4, and only 2 guests per player.
Yeah, I remember that. So
we had to sit 6 feet apart. It was crazy. So that was, but we didn't know anything else because that was all, that was the first year of high school for us.
So then you come back the next year in the scrimmage game during the season, before the season starts. He gets injured against Gil St. Bernard. Take me to that moment and what happened.
Last game, I think it's the last minute. I think it's a minute 40. They put Elliot back in again. We're winning by a lot, actually. I'm sitting right next to Markensi's mom. We're talking. My other son is sitting right on the other side. Elliot, they coming down. Elliot's defending. Elliot, I think he just steals the ball or is just about to steal the ball. And he changes direction, and we hear boom, like like a gunshot. And Elliot takes another step, and then he kind of falls down. And I look at my older son. I'm like, "What was that?" Like, I thought that the kid had maybe hit his knee on Ellie's knee or something. I wasn't sure at all. And Elliot like gets up and like kind of hobbles off the court, and then he comes out and he's not really in pain, but he goes upstairs and goes to sleep. I remember that. And I had an engagement that night, and when I'm driving, he calls me. He's hysterical. He's like, "I think I tore my old ACL." I'm like, "I don't think you could have tore your ACL. What is this?" So my friend in the car, she's like researching. She's like, "Can you go up and down with your foot?" And he said, "Yeah." She said, "No, it's not your ACL." but his foot was like swollen like this. It was
Mm.
crazy. So he had a torn deltoid in his foot,
Mm.
and luckily we were, sent to one of the best doctors in the world actually with that injury. He was in there, I think, 2 days after the injury. Um, that was a season, ending injury.
Mm.
He was supposed to be 6 weeks. He went back a little bit too early, and it kind of like retore, and then he had to just
Mm.
stay out. And he stayed. He was out that whole season, and then he was out the first weekend of the first session of EYBL. So he got back the second session of EYBL that year.
Now take it back to the during the injury. Where was he at mentally, and how was you able to deal with it?
I so Elliot is like a kid that's not like, he doesn't talk a lot. He's not like an extrovert at all. It was rough. So when Elliot feels like that, like he goes up to his room and he has some stuff he works on in his room that
Mm-hmm.
just keeps him going. Um, he had to actually give his Instagram account to a friend of his to
Mm.
just because every time he turned on Instagram, it was somebody dunking, somebody, one of his friends
Mm.
having a good game, whatever. Elliot went to every single practice. Elliot went to every single game. Elliot was a water boy.
I
Elliot
saw
went
that.
and got, yes, Elliot was the assistant coach. I remember especially one game we played St. Peter's. Elliot is crying on the sideline, sitting on the bench crying because he knew if he would have been there, could have been different. He was
Mm.
at every practice. He traveled with them to Florida like a few weeks after it had happened. He was tough. Like he would go to school, he would come home, he would be totally destroyed. And then we had to go for physical therapy, like basically every day, which was like an hour away. And it was really, really, really tough.
Mm. So
Really tough.
then he gets through that season, plays like you said AAU.
Mm.
Then it comes back the next season. I see this headline about he's going to some place called Link Academy. I
Yep.
immediately called Brian Coleman and said, "What is this? What is Link Academy?" Because I had heard of them. Then I looked them up and I saw they was like in their second season. But I was like, "What is Michelle doing? Where's this place in Missouri?"
Yep. So what happened was Elliot, he missed that season. We realized at that point, one, he had no freshman season really because of COVID. He had absolutely no sophomore season. Now it's go time. What we also
Mm.
realized was when he was at Bergen and any regular school, I think, private or public, um, he was invited to Pangos.
Mm-hmm.
This is right at the end of the school year. He has like 4 days left, I think. So he's going to miss because I don't know why, but Pangos is like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Dinos, yeah.
You come
Yeah.
on. You got
I
Friday,
know
Saturday,
Dinos.
Sunday. For us here on the East Coast, we're not done with school. So, and that Friday he had to go to Sweden for the
Mm.
national team. So he comes home. I talked to his guidance counselor and I said, listen, he has 7 finals to take. She goes, yeah, we're gonna take care of him. So he comes back. He takes 7 finals in 2 days. The
Mm.
boy has to take 7 finals in 2 days. He sits in the library all by him. The first day was actually like a what's that called? Like a makeup day, so kids that have been sick
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. But the
Mm-hmm.
last day was him all by himself in the library. Nobody to ask for help. You take chemistry, you can ask your teacher, excuse me, and he can say, well, do you remember when we did this and this?
Yeah, yeah.
He had none of that. And he was stressful. And I said, I can't keep on doing this. And this upcoming year, we got to really get going with the basketball. However, nobody had recruited him. Like nobody had really like asked us,
Mm.
for Elliot. OTE had. So we went down to OTE and did a like a recruitment session there,
Mm-hmm.
and loved it, loved it, loved it. And then again, I'm reaching out to people in my circle, and I happened actually to talk to Matt at Texas Tech. He's the best
Mm-hmm.
recruiter in the world. He had recruited Elliot for years. He's not at Texas Tech anymore, but he was at that point. And I said something like, "What do you guys need from him this year? Now when he hasn't played?" And I said maybe it would be good for him to go to some kind of academy kind of situation, but nobody has recruited us. And he's like, what did you say, Michelle? I said, nobody, no OTE. And then I think Brewster had called me, but way before that. I said, that's it. And he's like, that's not true. He said, hang up right now. This is true story. He said, hang up, pick up anybody that's calling tonight, pick it up. Link called, Oak Hill called, IMG called. So somewhere there had been a block somewhere saying Elliot wasn't interested in going out of state, that he wanted to stay in New Jersey. So when the floodgates opened, they opened. And here we are, me and Elliot running around like maniacs, like taking calls. We flew out to Link. We went to OTE. We met with the IMG coaches. We had calls with Oak Hill. We met with Prolific Prep. Yeah, floodgates open. So, and in the mix was actually, this is not known fact, but in the mix was actually also Roselle Catholic at that point.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. That was, we just knew that we needed somewhere. That one of the problems at Bergen was that there was no real, like they had volleyball, they had, what is that called? Wrestling and stuff. So the gym wasn't really accessible. So it was hard because me and Elliot had to go up there like 10:30 at night to, just get some shooting and stuff in. So we did all this. We hashed everything out, and I remember when he decided, because it's always been his decisions. We try to guide him as much as possible. All the decisions have always been talked through as a family. So my husband, my older son, me, and Elliot. And we have to go out to Pangos, back to Pangos. We had to go out to Pangos a little earlier, me and my husband and Justin, because there was some big New Jersey versus New York game here that they needed Elliot for. So he stayed back. He comes into the hotel. I remember he comes a day later. He opens the door and he says, all right, I need the Apple AirPods. No, the Apple, those, the big Apple, not the ones you like the big Apple.
Dre Beats.
Sorry?
The Dre Beats?
No, it's not Beats. It's the Apple ones. Apple AirPods, maybe. Okay. I can't remember. But he says, I need the Apple headphones. I need to be able to have a tattoo. He had one already. And whenever I come home, Mama, there's no curfew. If I want to be out to 3 o'clock, I'll be out to 3 o'clock. I says, what is this the stipulation for? He's like, you give me those 3 things, and I'm going to Link.
Why did he choose Link?
So you haven't seen Link, right?
I saw them play before, but I haven't been like at the place or anything.
So Link is in the middle of nowhere in Missouri. You can't even. You could possibly maybe ride a bike to like a store, a convenience store. It's out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. It's beautiful campus. The coach, so we had Billy Armstrong, right, at Bergen. The coach at Link is Bill Armstrong. Bill Armstrong is a former LSU and Ole Miss assistant coach. We really loved him right away. We also loved Matt Suter, who owns Link or whatever you want to call it. Elliot could roll out of bed, and there were 2 gyms that he could use at any time. Everything is right there. There's only 12 kids. That's it. It's not a big school. It's the high school team, 12 kids. And he would have access to the gym and to the court, and the weight room 24 hours a day. And there were no distractions. And he said, that's where I want to go.
How was his adjustment to that level of play? Because they play a whole type of different schedule than he was playing at Bergen.
So I think because you got to remember that Elliot went like straight from, even though he didn't really play high school like that, he's always had schedules like that. So for the past like 5 years, he's gone to Europe, back here to play AAU, back to Europe, back here to play AAU, go straight into the high school season or whatever season. So he was used to all of that. He's been used to all the traveling for like a long time. So I don't think that was, I think the adjustment was, being away from us, being away from Tahad, his best friend, his like brother like this, not being able to just, go home because it's far. It's really far, really far. I don't
So
think the adjustment, because that's what he wanted to do. He loves basketball. That's like his, that's his main thing. So I don't think that was a big adjustment. Plus, those 11 other kids there, like they were like they're like brothers. That Jacoby Walter was out there. A lot of like really really good kids on that team.
talk about the Geico Nationals when they get on that stage. What was that like?
Geico Nationals. So we had a good run. We lost one game, right? At that point, we had lost one game with the Bird here in New Jersey, which was like, yeah, horrible, but it was what it was. So we get down there. We have been in that same gym, I think, playing City of Palms. Yeah, it was the same gym. We play the first game, which I think the first game we were good. I think the second game, the semifinals, I think like we were up by a lot, and then all of a sudden we were like tied. They were up. It was like, and then we win by just a few points, and then we were hoping obviously to play Montverde again, but that didn't happen because they got. I think they must have lost in the semifinals too. We're playing against Zayden High, who is with ELLIOT at UNC now. We knew that was a really good team. We're playing, and if I remember right, we're like up the whole game. I think it's a really good game for us, and I remember that, and that's going to be in my heart like forever. We have pictures from that, but I remember, and this will show you like how much those kids that go away like that, how much they had to sacrifice. They sacrifice because they know they need to do it to get better at basketball, but they sacrifice. So they win. They go nuts, obviously, on the court. ELLIOT comes running up the stairs to me, and he hugs his dad. He hugs me, and he says, I won Geico's National. I won Geico. So I said, yes, you did. Like you led this team, like you guys won. And he looks at me and he's bawling and he says, can I please come home now? And that was just like straight in my heart. Like he loves this. He loves his team. He loves all this, but he went out there to accomplish something. Now he accomplished it. Can he please come home? Because if he could pick, he wouldn't be out there. It was just for the betterment of himself. He was out there.
Wow. And that's tough though. How many like some of the other parents that you met along this journey, especially at a school like Link, how many of them came to you with those same kind of testimonies from their kids?
I think they all. I think all the kids like. So I always say now when I try to guide people and stuff, like I don't think 4 years at an academy, unless you're in a situation where, say, for example, like you live in an area that's unsafe, so it's safer for you to go to an academy. But for a kid like ELLIOT, who's absolutely not living in an unsafe area and stuff, if you go away, I'd say do like 2 or possibly 1 year, because that's hard on you. It's hard. You're competing. You're on the court with these guys that you love. You're competing with them to win, but every game you're in, you're also competing for, possibly a spot in the league or possibly a spot, at American, what's it called? McDonald's All-American. Like you can never. We don't understand really the pressure that those kids are under.
I know. I said that on the video before.
Yeah.
I said that. So now, season over, you hit the EYBL, and I gotta ask you, since you've been on this journey, you didn't talk to Chad, you didn't talk to the other people in your circle, everybody saying Nike. Did it live up to the billing? Did it live up to the EYBL, live up to the hype that they sold you when he was younger?
Oh yeah, 100%, 1,000%. Yes, absolutely.
Take us there.
Absolutely. The first time we come, so it's that weird year with COVID. So we're down there, I think, for like 14 days. And everybody has to be tested every other day. And it's like, it's a little weird. And you come in and literally every court is like a line. There's like 60, 70 coaches, like high level coaches. You see who they are. It's crazy. And that wasn't even like the year, because that was the COVID year. So everything was very weird. And then the kids that we've seen for all these years, like the top kids, and I know there's kids that are good that play on independent circles and UA and whatever, but I don't think that there's that amount of talent in any other on any other circuit. Plus, the EYBL compared to a lot of the middle school, Made was good because probably they learned a lot from like the Nike, but the games start on time. There's security guards if something happened. It's like it's a totally different. It's a more professional ride for sure, and definitely I really appreciate EYBL for sure. He's done a lot for Elliot.
I saw on the social media they have massage tables and all types of stuff on the like in the back. Like I was all that. They had like massage tables and all these different things
the
on
guns. One time we went somewhere, they had the cryo. The ice chamber. Yep. No, it's good. But we skipped one thing though there in between here. So Elliot gets invited to Basketball Without Borders.
Talk to me about that. Okay.
It is in Utah. It is 40. He actually got invited the year before, but they ended up not doing it because of COVID. And they invite 40 international players. They have to be turning 17 or 18 that year. Yeah, they have to be, or is it 18 and 19? Maybe 18, 19. I can't remember, but 18 and 19, 17, 18. So it's by year. Like FIBA, everything is by year, not by reclassification or anything. They invite 40 kids from around the world, international kids. Elliot is one of them. So at the same time, the Swedish national team calls and they say, hey, can Elliot come? And I don't know if you followed him, you know that he went and tried out for the men's team one time and didn't make it. This time they call and I said, he really can't come over there, just to try out. And they were like, no, he's on the team. Like, he's on the team, bring him. So he has a lot. He has a tournament. Oh, he has the Montverde tournament. And it turns out that some of our kids actually had COVID at that tournament. So Elliot stays home a few extra days because you have to test to go into Basketball Without Border. You have to test negative before you can go in. So, and it's an all-star weekend. So in Utah. So Elliot flies from here to Lynx just to repack. He goes out there. And I text him and I'm like, how does it feel? He's like, I'm actually not that excited about this. And I'm like, okay, I think you should be. He says, I'm excited about Sweden, but I'm not sure about this here. So he's like, what if I get somebody that doesn't speak English and whatever? And I'm like, listen, you and Matas, because Matas was at the same thing. You guys are raised in America. You have a head up on everybody or a leg up on everybody. Like, just go kill it because when they say in cut or whatever, some of these kids don't even barely speak English. So take that as, so he goes out, he calls me. He's like, Mom, I'm really excited to be here. Because some of the NBA players had actually like come up to him on the plane and said like, Elliot, you know who you are. Like, keep doing what you're doing. And he killed it. So he won so he was the fastest. He jumped the highest, the shuffle, whatever it's called. Like the only thing he didn't win was the height, I think, obviously, right? So he played very well. So he played very well. He was an all-star. He didn't become MVP, he was an all-star. He flies straight to Sweden and lands in Sweden, jumps on a plane with them, goes to Germany and plays his first match, his first game as a, senior team player, right? And he doesn't get to play that much, but still he gets to play. And then we go back to Sweden. We play Germany in Germany. And then we go back to Sweden. And I think they played Estonia or Latvia, one of those countries. And again, he doesn't get to play that much, but when he plays, he shows up. He goes back to Link. And this is before Geico. And Bill calls me from over there. He's like, I don't know what happened to Elliot, but something happened. He's a totally different kid. So I asked him after Geico, I said, like, what happened? And he said, Mama, I go to Basketball Without Borders. I'm one of the best kids out of these kids that are, identified as the best kids in the world. Then I go to Sweden and I play. Every single person I'm playing against on that court and every single person that's on my team are professional basketball players, grown adults. Some of them are 35, 32. The guy he roomed with had like 3 kids and a wife, And he's like, and I was right there. I can become a professional basketball player.
Wow.
And that's when he like really, really turned it up. So
Let me
his
see.
whole thing, if you think about it, is 7 months at Link. That's it, because he barely played high school his first year. He didn't play at all his 10th grade, and then here we are now at EYBL this year. So where do we go from there?
Now let's get into the recruiting. Who hollered first? Who was on you the most? And how did we get to that commitment day? Then we're gonna get to the reclassing back up. Now, did you decide to reclass back up before or after you knew where you were going?
After
All
after
right,
we knew
so
what we were.
all
So
right,
he
so
was
let's
always
get to
set
it.
up. Yeah. So he was
Okay,
always set up to be able to reclass back up if he wanted to. So he was done
okay,
with his
okay.
classes. He could be done with his classes after 11th grade. So he actually graduated out at Link, but he couldn't go to graduation because at that point we had already decided. But then somebody would take a picture and would be out there, and we needed to keep it under wraps a little bit longer. But he recruitment was it was crazy, hectic. Again, we didn't. My oldest is a tennis player. That's a totally different recruitment. Um, it was it was it was it was a blessing, but it was like a part-time job. Mike, I'm writing a book about the recruitment.
Wow.
I am, because parents need to know. There's a lot of stuff to think about. There's also a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of we had one school where he was basically going to go to. This was early in the recruitment, like, after the junior call, like after June. But one school that he was like basically going to go to, they committed another point guard. Like the same day they were out watching him, like the assistant coach calls me and he has like, he's not crying, but he's upset. And we're like, wait, what just happened? We had one school, one top level school that kept on ringing him in. Each time we went for an official, they would call. They can't call you while you're on an official, so they would call that Thursday. Hey, Michelle, so you guys coming here next week? We didn't have an offer from them, so it was a little like weird. But they kept on like with little hooks on ELLIOT like the whole time. So there was a lot of stuff, and then one of the coaches left one of the schools that he was, because he was. And somebody said this to me, it's a blessing and a curse too. He was only really recruited by the head coaches. So when the head coach left, what are you going to do? So that school was out because so Matt Suter at Link told me, Michelle, it's all going to fall into place sooner or later. It's going to be very obvious. And it was very obvious. And ELLIOT really, really, really wanted to go to UNC. The feeling at UNC is family first. Every coach has played there. For me, it was pretty important actually to have like a head coach that was, a minority person. That was really important to me. Because I think that's, we had been blessed with, Bill at Link. He had been in the industry for a long time, and he could like, but it, there's stuff that they can talk to you about that they can't talk to a white coach about. That's just the way it is. So that was, but I never pushed anything. It was all his decision. It was tough. There were, there were money being thrown. There were, things that it's hard for an 18-year-old kid to, So ELLIOT actually only wants to play basketball. That's what he wants to do. So he told me pretty early, he said, listen, I want to come out with my top 5. He was holding out for that school that kept on like, throwing him stuff. And the school was supposed to come out and visit him that day. They had told us that a couple of times. And ELLIOT said, if they don't come today, I'm just going to put out my top 6. I don't need an offer from them. I don't need. And that's what he did. And that kind of like got stuff to be a little bit easier for him because now he only had to deal with those 6 coaches. Before it was like, I don't know, 30, 40 coaches calling, texting. And ELLIOT just want to play basketball and get better at basketball.
I asked a couple AAU directors this question, and I'm going to ask you, out of the ones you dealt with, what percentage of them do you think appeared to be trustworthy?
The college coaches?
Yeah.
I'd say all of them. I mean, that's hard. trustworthy. I think it's important for you to know when you're in, and that was like the one thing for me, like it was hard because so again, I went back to my circle, literally went back to my circle, said, what about this coach? Or what do you know about this coach? Because
Mhm,
everybody's going to try to sell you something, right? It's going to sound
mhm,
really
mhm,
good. It's going to be,
mhm,
yeah, sounding really, really good. They're like car salesmen, right? They want
mm,
your kid. And
mm.
it's hard to decipher like what is really, really true here and what is, so I wouldn't say that anybody was dishonest. There were a few coaches that I didn't like the way they went about stuff. But I would say I appreciate all the, I'd say out of all the schools, maybe there were like two that I didn't like the way they operated.
All right, so now you make this decision to reclass up
Yeah.
and go early.
Yeah.
How does he feel about, or did you feel about missing events like the McDonald's game and things like that?
So to be honest, it was me. I wanted him to reclass up because there's a few different reasons for it, but I couldn't see him accomplish anything else in high school.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Mm-hmm.
killing it on in the high
Mm-hmm.
school. He won Geico's, which was one of his goals from he was little. And I
Mm-hmm.
just like, I felt like no, I felt like he needed to go to college. That's what I felt. Um, and with all this stuff, I saw the injury right in 10th grade. You never know, knock on wood, what's
Yeah.
going to happen. So if I
Yeah.
can get him there early, and he can start train. It's better to be at a college and train and get better than being in high school. Even though Link is a really good high school, he would have been one of the older kids, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt like yeah, it was better for him to go to college. Um, McDonald's All American was a big, big, big thing. We talked about it. We talked about it. We left. We stopped talking about it. We brought it back up. And I think at the end of the day, what I tried to convey to Elliot was like, okay, that's one game.
Mm-hmm.
It's one game. Are you
Mm-hmm.
really willing to stay in high school for another year or another like 10 months for one game? And what if you get injured right before and you can't play it? Or, what if you don't get picked? We saw some politics play out the year before, right? Where kids weren't picked that should have been picked. So I think I'm pretty sure he would have been picked, but yeah, that's kind of what I felt that, he needed to go to college. That's what I felt.
So he at North Carolina now, and of course he's calling home, talking to his mom and things of that nature. Not in getting into details into his season because he's still playing there, things of that nature. But what did he communicate to you was probably his biggest adjustment to playing college basketball?
Uh, biggest adjustment. Um, I have to think about that a little bit actually. I think it's an adjustment just like and I'm really, really grateful that he was at Link because he lived away from home for a year. I think like if he was
Mm-hmm.
like going straight to college, because it's a lot. It's like it's parties and you can stay up as late as you want and you can skip breakfast. And in my family, we have a saying like you got to be elite in everything, and also nothing happens by chance. Elliot is not the player he is by chance. None of this is by chance. We've been very intentional with what he eats, when he sleeps, who he
Wow.
is around. Show me your
Wow.
best three best friends. I show you your future.
Wow.
How he carries himself. He's been an A student through his entire life. We've been very. So I think the fact that he was kind of in a controlled environment at Link and got that like kind of like he lived away from home. He had to do his own laundry. He had to make sure he ate right. All that. I think that made this adjustment easier. I think an adjustment to this level, I think is probably uh, everybody. Elliott's always been like a good player, right? On every team he's been, so he might have been favored a little bit here and there. At this level, they're all equally good,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe being the youngest, so he's like the absolute youngest on that team. Some of the kids are like 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
One of the players have played there for 5 years, and Elliot is not a
Mm-hmm.
kid that will come in and try to, disrespect you and take over like you have seniority. So maybe stuff like that. Maybe being the youngest kid and having to kind of like adjust to other people. Maybe I don't know. He doesn't really. We don't really. He doesn't really bring any of that home though.
All right, let's transition a little bit over to the business side of this a little bit. When college brought into the NIL, deals allowing athletes to make money on their image and likeness. Talk about, I see that you guys had signed the deal with Rock Nation. Talk about how that kind of thing came into play and the whole process to kind of educate some of the parents that's out there.
Yeah. So Elliot played a game in Finland. This is 2021, I think December 2021. Maybe the fall of 2021, August. I can't remember, but yeah, late summer. And he plays against a Finnish kid named Miro Little. Miro is now at Baylor. And he was highly recruited. He is an NBA prospect, and nobody over in Europe really kind of knew Elliot. And here is this little kid on. So Elliot played up 1 year, 2 years, 1 year. He played up 1 year with the Swedish youth team. He played up. Nobody really knew who he was, and he was doing his thing against Miro. So after that, we had like 4 or 5 agents reaching out to us, European agents, but it was like American agencies, but they're European agents. And how it works is, or how it worked back then was, they can't sign you or anything until you have forfeited college. So the last day of college, when you say, okay, I'm going to go into the draft, that's when they can actually sign you. That's different now because now they can do NIL, but there wasn't any NIL when we were doing this. So what they did back then was they would get in contact with you. They would come take you to dinner. I don't know if they took us to dinner. Were they allowed to? I can't remember, but they would talk to us. They would do things. Like one of them came from Germany here and met us, came to Bergen to talk to Elliot a little bit and, to get to know you, because if they invest in you as an NBA player, they want to know you a little bit. So that happened. And then one day we're at a game at Bergen, and the guy comes up to me after the game and says, hey, my name is Drew. I'm from Rock Nation. I've seen Elliot. I would like to, talk to you guys. And this is still, too early. This is like maybe October of 2021. But we know that January 2022, New Jersey is probably going to allow high school students to do NIL.
Okay.
So we started talking to him about what that would mean and stuff. So Rock Nation and him, they are our like marketing. Right now, they are obviously not our NBA agents. They're our marketing and NIL agents. But that's good because now you can get to know them. So when it's time for the NBA, either this is the guy or it's not the guy.
So I saw that you had some things going on with Leaf trading cards and Wilson Sporting Goods. What is those things?
Yeah, so Leaf was pretty early. Right now he has it's Panini. Okay. And then he has Wilson. He did a few things with Wilson. He did something at the Basketball Without Borders with them. He's done a few appearances with them. He also has what does he have? He has with Noco. Actually, I have it here. He has there's this Swedish company, Noco, energy drinks. He does. We've been shooting TikToks he was home for 3 days. We've been shooting TikToks for Noco because that's his deal with them. So he has a couple of deals in Sweden, and then obviously he has his own clothing brand, and he has some stuff dropping tomorrow, which this is a part of actually.
How do you keep the distractions and things away? Especially now, I seen a thing where they say like a lot of older women be targeting these young guys, especially the ones in college, because they see some earning potential in them. Do you guys have things set in place to be able to keep him safe from that kind of stuff?
I think so. So we've always, with the two boys, we've always talked about, what's out there and what can happen and what people could possibly be interested in and how they can try to, trick you into things and whatever. So I think he's pretty educated on that. I think we've also, as I said before, like always been very important to us who is around him. And I think
Mm-hmm.
at this point he is pretty good at, you know, kind of reading like who he should be around, even in college, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that he has a girlfriend, so that I guess that helps too because you know he's locked in with her. Um, it is hard to know for him now, like you know, is this kid does he want to be friends with me because I'm, you know, the point guard at UNC, or is it because I'm Elliot? You know, and he understands
Mm-hmm.
that too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the good thing with Elliot is Elliot has always been and still is very humble. Elliot doesn't think that he is. Um, there was a situation not long ago where he told me like I didn't think I was going to be, you know, he didn't think he was ready for college like I thought he was ready for college. He
Mm-hmm.
never thinks that he's like good enough. He always feels like he
Mm-hmm.
has a lot more to do. So that's a good thing with him. He stays humble, and I think if you stay humble, it's easier to stay focused.
What advice do you have for parents in terms of doing NIL negotiations and trying to find the right kind of people to represent them?
So I think it's pretty important to have representation because I mean eventually they will start bringing in money, but also it kind of covers you. So all the stuff that we do. So Rock Nation brings in stuff, and then I bring in stuff, or you know stuff is just coming to us, and everything goes to Rock Nation's lawyer to you know
Mm-hmm.
look through that. You know, so everything is good in the contracts. Um, so I think if you can have representation, I think that's good. You obviously got to not jump on just anybody. You know, with everything that we've done our research. We've done our research with AAU organizations. We've done our research with high schools, with colleges, with agents. I think that's very important to do. And ask around. Ask around. You know, ask people maybe that left that school or left that agency.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did you leave? You know, because they probably have more to say. And then take everything with a grain of salt, obviously. I think what's really important though to understand is that um, the NIL doesn't necessarily come because you're a good basketball player. The NIL comes because you have a big following. So a company
Wow.
wants to have your kid and they want to pay your kid because nobody today reads the magazines or the kids don't watch TV. So the way that they reach our kids is via social media. So if Elliot, who has, I don't know, 200 something thousand followers, posts something, you know, a lot of kids will, you know, see
Mm-hmm.
that. If another kid that's like, you know, first draft pick in the NBA next year, maybe only has 15,000 followers. I'm just saying, you know,
Mm-hmm.
15,000
Mm-hmm.
followers. That kid doesn't carry as much weight or can actually charge as much money as Elliot can because it's really about engagement and reach
Mm-hmm.
on social media.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's definitely um an interesting part of it because I was interviewing Chris Rivers and he talked a little bit about that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? About the whole NIL thing and the attraction of it and the parents and my concern of it was if you don't have kids that have the kind of structure, parents with the kind of structure that you guys have around your son, this thing could go totally left with too much too soon. You know what I mean? What
Absolutely.
you think about that?
I totally agree. And what's very important is to know that all the money that these kids make, they have to pay taxes on that. So,
Mm,
you know, if you have a kid you know, if you have a kid like Elliot that, you know, has NIL deals and stuff, you have to have a tax consultant. You have to have a
mm,
CPA. You probably need to have, you
mm,
know, a couple of wealth management people. You know, it's a
mm,
lot that goes into this. So I think that's a point that you make that's really important. And I also think that a lot of the kids need to have like somebody independent that they really trust that can, you know, make sure that everything is secured for them. Because if you think about it, take Elliot as an example. Elliot is 6'1". Um, Elliot is a great athlete. He works really hard, and you know, we're hoping that there will be a chance for him to go to the league, but we don't know. He can walk out here and have an accident, or you know, something can happen. So for me, it's very important that the money that he makes now is taken care of. So if God forbid something happens, like he can, kind of build off of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Chris said the same thing. He said that he had a client he was dealing with, and the father took the money and put it up and told his son, "You ain't had it for the last 2 years. You don't need it right now." You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
So that's a very important part. Now let's
Yeah.
touch a little bit on you. What are your duties on that end of it? Give me like your breakdown to all the stuff you got to do to make sure that this marketing thing goes right.
Yeah. So I'm a marketing major. I
Okay,
actually
okay.
that's my degree. So I really love it. So I really feel that it's my job as his mom and his momager, whatever you want to say. I want to make sure that this is not just like the time that Elliot plays basketball, because we know, I know a kid can be hot today and like there's another kid coming tomorrow going up, right? So I'm trying to build Elliot a brand. So Elliot has he has that little avatar that looks like him, that's like very popular. So we have made that into key rings and stickers and everything you can think of, just to kind of like build a brand, to have it out there. So kids that like Elliot, has a little key ring of him or something, just to get his brand and his logo out there. So what I do is I do most of his like design stuff. I do most of any new merchandise. Like I'm involved in all of that. So anything. So what we do with Elliot is nothing comes to him unless it has to come to him. So if you say, okay, I have a deal for Elliot, it has to come to me. You and I talk about it. If I think it's something that he should do, if if the money is right, because we're at that point now where he can say no if it's not enough money. But if the money is right and it's something we really want to do, because also I think it's important that every deal is something that Elliot that benefits Elliot. Like I don't want him to do deals that are questionable, or I want him to do deals that show that he's like a high caliber guy, right? So maybe there's a Rolex deal and he gets 10,000, and then there's like a lower end watch that will give him 50,000. Maybe I'll take the Rolex deal because that will elevate his brand.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if he comes to me first, if I think it's worth it, I will go to Elliot and I will hash it out with you as much as possible. So say you want to sell a hoodie. So you and I will go through, okay, what color should it be? What size should it be? Should the hood be big so it can, fit the kids nowadays? Like I will hash all that out with you, and then I will take it to Elliot. Sometimes I even take it to his brother and ask, like, what should we do? Because Elliot really just wants to play basketball. That's all he wants to do. So so we are trying to pave the way for him. We've said to him, this is a family thing. So we will do everything around. You just concentrate on your basketball.
Okay. Now, during this process, as a woman, do you feel that you would treat it fairly? Do you feel that people tried to get over on you because they felt you was a woman? Do you feel like when you getting in there in the negotiations and stuff like that, people look at you fairly?
So I gotta say, thank you for that question. I think all women appreciate that question. So I'd say not now, because at this point, like they know who I am. I think coming this way. So I ran two middle school basketball academies, right?
Okay.
But
Okay.
I was disregarded as I didn't know anything about basketball. I never said I knew anything about basketball really, but I know what an athlete needs, and I know. So yeah, a lot of times I think, um, being a white woman, especially, like I stand out as a sore thumb in the basketball world, which I have tried to use as an advantage to help where I can when it comes to stuff. So I think that I've always used my voice and spoken up in situations where maybe you couldn't speak up or you wouldn't speak up, or yeah. So I think this is the thing. I don't really care. If you don't think I don't, if you think I don't know anything, who cares? Like I really don't care. So I do, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But we've been pretty successful, me and Elliot, in what we're doing so far. So I think we've been doing pretty well.
All right, so this portion of the show, this is where we do our 5 cards. I put up the 5 cards, and then you just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind when you see the picture. All
Okay.
right?
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Number 1.
I'll tell you exactly. I have a text from Brian where it says, Michelle, you should have been here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2, ELLIOT
Oh my
Tahad relationship. Talk about that a little
you know
bit.
what my dream, you know what my dream is? My dream is that the two of them get on the same like NBA team, whatever, somewhere sometimes. So there's nothing that like I can't even describe their relationship. Like
Wow.
so Tahad, if Elliot is on his way home from UNC, Tahad is here. He's usually here before Elliot comes home. Tahad, there's been times where Tahad is in my house. I don't even know. I come home from the store and he's like in the house. Um, Tahad and Elliot are each other's rocks. Like
Wow.
Elliot would not be who he is if it wasn't for Tahad. And Tahad, I'm sure, wouldn't be who he is if it wasn't for Elliot. Their relationship is, I honestly, like, I've never experienced anything like that, and I hope that they forever stay like this because they're like brothers. They met. Tahad was 7. Elliot, I think Elliot had just turned 8, maybe, and Tahad was 7, and they've been inseparable since.
Wow. Praise the Most High. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
It is. I mean, yeah. Oh my God. Whew. This here, we it's in Romania. We went to Romania. I had been in Finland watching him. They did not play very well. The coaches had to position the coach. They just wanted everybody to play, and we are used to, like, coaches wanting to win. So, but they said, no, but it all makes sense when we get to Romania. We get to Romania, we win the first game, we lose the second game. So we're thinking we're out. And we're going to play for like 8, whatever. So our next game is against Romania, and they have the stadium packed. It's not a stadium, but they have the thing packed. We have nobody. They have horns and drums, and it's crazy. And there's 12 of us, and we're like, go Sweden. And then this particular game, so we made it to the final, and in the final, and the one thing that I'm thinking about when I see this game is the team had a rough time. So we had 2 shooters, and they weren't shooting, and Elliot had to take over. In this game, I think he had like 26 points. And Elliot. I know you've talked to me about this. Like, Elliot need to score. Elliot need to score. So Elliot has 26 points, and they doing the All-Star, and Elliot is an All-Star, and then they do the MVP, and it's Elliot. And I just I started bawling. I had no clue. Like, for me, it's like, I don't know who plays the best. Like, I'm watching everybody, but I don't really, and this was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful moment. Like, I was so proud of him.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's like those are his brothers right there, and that was amazing. Like, I really wish that every basketball parent could, even if it's not Geico's, but something like that they win, because it's amazing. And all that work they put in for years and years and years, like all the sacrifices, because our kids sacrifice a lot. We don't talk about that enough. And to see them get to this point and win as a team, like win, yeah.
And
yeah, I mean that makes me so proud. It is, and again, that's another, like, another step. Every time you step up, you understand that you have so much work still to do. But this was like, and it was great because it was in New York, and that was intentional too. We kept it quiet because this was the place to do it. It was Jordan Classic. He was going from a Jordan school to a Jordan school. It was in New York, and it was Lightning playing somebody. Not Lightning. Yeah, it was Lightning. Yeah, Lightning was.
Wasn't
playing.
it the high school? Wasn't it the high school thing?
Yes, it was. Yeah, the same thing that they're playing right now.
The Jordan brand.
Exactly. Yeah. and it was Lightning playing some other. Oh, it was Lightning playing OSL. So it was like his no, not Lightning. It was Link playing OSL. So it was like Link. His Link team was there. OSL, which was his Lightning team, were all there. All the coaches, like the coaches from Lamar, from Hilltoppers, all the way up into it was a perfect place to do it. Like that's a very I'm very proud of that moment.
Wow. So now we can get into, you guys have a new venture that you're doing right now. Let's talk about Team Cadeau European AU squad.
Yes. So what we've seen, Elliot and I, when we go to Europe, is that they really want to. First of all, they really want to come here and play high school and college. They don't understand really what it is because they've never been over here playing. They don't understand the game is fast. You have to, your ball handling has to be, tighter than it is. They are fundamentally very good, but they are not like there yet. And what has happened in Sweden is, in Sweden years ago, everybody looked like me. Nowadays, a lot of the young people look like Elliot, which has changed a lot of, things in Sweden. They still don't, those kids still don't necessarily have a spot in Sweden or in the society that's theirs. So this is like so much more than basketball for us. So the people in Sweden that run basketball look like me. They're about my age, and they're mainly men. They have taken everything in that they like, which is great. However, we would like to see, and it's not their fault, it's just they don't know what they don't know. What we would like to see is the younger kids that look like Elliot we want to create a space for them. So in Sweden, if you walk down the street here, you can see, oh yeah, he's probably a baller, because you can see the way he's dressed. Like, if you hear the music he listens to, yeah, he's probably a baller, even if you don't know him. We really want that. We want to bring the whole basketball culture to Sweden, not just on the court. So what we decided to do was we are taking American basketball to Sweden to help the Swedish players and the European players be ready for American basketball. So 4 weekends a year, we're bringing American coaches over there to train. So it's going to be kind of like a camp 4 weekends a year. And then it culminates in them coming over here to play live period in July.
Wow.
So instead of them coming here, just like, just coming over here, they have already been trained. So it's not like a Swedish team is coming over here. It's Team Cadeau training the kids in Sweden and then bringing them here to play, to get exposure, to see what basketball is here. So we're doing 9th, 10th, 11th, and then 12th grade for unsigned seniors. The only problem is that we opened this the day before yesterday. I have kids, I think there's like 95 kids from Sweden signed up at this point. Granted, this is just the kids who have signed up, right? But I have kids from Denmark, Finland, Norway, Greece, UK, Germany, Poland, Ukraine, Romania, and then I have Australia and also, but from Europe. So what we're thinking now is that maybe we need to do like a centralized European hub where 10 kids from each country comes in, and then we bring one team from each country over here to play.
Wow. That's a great way to put that kind of whole project together. And who was the brainchild of that? Who thought about doing coming up with this whole concept?
I think it's me and Elliot together. Like we talk, and Justin, my older, we've talked about for a long time how we want to help Swedish basketball, and as I said in the beginning, like we really don't know what we're supposed to do, so we've just done what we felt we wanted to do. And I was told so many times with the basketball academy, nobody wants a middle school basketball academy. That's not going to work. There's no money in basketball, this and that. And I successfully, created 2 of them, and I've had hundreds and hundreds of kids, and a lot of the kids from New Jersey that are, high level kids went through those academies. And I'm pretty sure that this too will help kids. It will give them exposure. It will show them the American way of playing, but also will create a space in Europe for those kids that don't necessarily look like the Europeans looked like 20, 30 years ago. And it's time for them to be a real part and take space in society.
You mentioned a couple times you've been a very advocate of the basketball academies. So to finish this off, talk to me about why you feel the importance of basketball academies, especially on the middle school level.
So I think that there's two things. So we haven't really talked about reclassification, right? So I think that the reclassification, if you reclass a kid, I think that should be done after eighth grade, because then
Okay.
the kid really knows what the purpose is of that year. They
Okay.
also know, all right, I have 365 days and then it's over, because there's nowhere else I can go than high school from here. So
Okay.
if you reclass a fifth grader, he or she has no clue what's going on, right? So
Mm.
you reclass after eighth grade. If you just put the kid back a year in school and they retake eighth grade curriculum, they go with eighth graders, but they should have been in ninth grade. Like they're just a little bit bigger, a little bit taller, a little bit stronger, a little bit more mature. If you put them in an environment like an academy, well, first of all, everybody's reclassed. So you're going to be
Hmm.
with kids that are your age. Secondly, you don't have to sit and take eighth grade like curriculum. You might have to take some eighth grade classes, but it's not going to be the same eighth grade classes
Hmm.
as you took
Hmm.
in, regular school. So the
Hmm.
academies that I've been, you know, um, taking care of, we've had specific curriculum for basketball players. So if
Okay.
you think about it, we have really cracked the code for kids wanting to go to school. So if you
Mm.
came to the academy late, you didn't work out. And we know the kids are not really there for English, they're there for basketball, right? They understand they
Hmm.
have to do English. If you didn't hand in your homework, you didn't work out. So these kids, I
Mm.
had parents every year say, what do you do to my kid? He or she is like knocking on the door saying, Dad, we got to go to school. I got to go to school. I got to be on time. And I have to hand in my homework. So, and we also, the way we taught the kids were like, they went to school, they went to high school to ninth grade. And that's also what we want to change in Sweden, by the way, because they don't understand the relationship between grades and college.
Okay.
So, but these kids, when they left us, they knew the marking period, your first marking period in ninth grade is more important. That grade is more important than your last marking period in 12th grade.
Wow.
So they got so much taught from us that they would never get, in just being put back into fifth grade or eighth grade in a regular
Mm.
school. So if you reclass at an academy where the kid gets, they're treated like ninth graders,
Hmm.
and they get it's been very easy for our kids to go to high school and to be able to time manage, because they had to time manage. They had 4 hours of basketball, strength, speed, whatever it was, plus their academic classes. It's almost like they're college students already, right?
So basically, you take your core, but instead of taking all them specials like art and music, you cut all that out. We're gonna do our academics, and then we're gonna get busy with basketball.
Yep.
Okay.
And if you're
Okay.
not
Okay.
done in English, so you take English, science, social studies, and
Math.
math.
Okay.
And then where I've been, we also had a course that was called 365. That was actually for all the reclass kids. And it was only about the 365 days you have, until you start high school. So we
Okay.
talked about NIL, we talked about NLI, we talked about
Nice.
recruiting,
Nice.
we talked about grades, all of
Hmm.
that stuff. They created their own brands, their own logos, stuff like that. And then prep for the co-op test here in New York, New Jersey, and
Hmm.
I can't remember what it's called now in New York, but we prepped the reclass kids for that, so they got better grades on that. And then you have where I was, we had 2 hours of encore, two periods, and then one speed and one strength. And
Mm.
then one day a week we had a recovery, because they were mainly playing AAU all weekends. So we had one recovery day with yoga and active recovery and stuff.
I like that. So the basketball was the motivator for them to want to come to school and to do what they needed to do in school. Like I like that. I like
Yep.
this. I'm surprised it's not more of those that's popped up all over the place, because I like the concept. Because I didn't like going to music and art and all of that. Like I just wanted to
Right.
play the sport that I was playing too. So it's
Yep.
kind of like having IMG in them, but just in the middle school level.
Exactly, exactly. And you could
Okay.
do that in music. You could have a music school,
Yeah.
an instrumental school. You can do it in dance. You could do it in I don't know, art or whatever. Like, but I really think my background from Europe. I grew up and went to school in Sweden, and we look at stuff a little bit different. So I've always been open-minded with my two cultures, the American culture and the Swedish culture. I can kind of like pick, whatever is best from both of them. And that's one of the things in Sweden. The school is not, the same way it is here. It's a little different. So I've taken a lot of that and brought that to the academy.
Thank you. So, Michelle, this has definitely been a pleasure. You gave us a education on a whole lot of things, this whole process, and why you guys made the moves that you made. I look forward to seeing Elliot play. I'm gonna check him out on Friday, and I want to thank you for definitely coming on. I've been trying to get you on for a while, and I know you've been running up and down the East Coast and all over the place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I want to thank you for coming on. I'll talk to you later. I'm gonna send you a copy of this interview, this podcast,
and
I'm also sending you the clips and stuff once I get them done. Also, give Elliot and the rest of the family my love, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for having you on.
You too. Thank you for having me, and thanks for everything you've done for Elliot through the years.
All right, I appreciate you too, Michelle. Okay. Talk to you later.
Yeah, bye.
All right. Yeah, this is another In the Spotlight podcast interview. That was she gave us a mouthful of things that a lot of the parents should be able to take some notes from if you want to go that route with the reclassification NILs, the basketball academies. That's why I thought it was important to have her on, because she took a lot of risk and she was willing to do that for the betterment of her son's future. So I want to thank you guys for coming on. Tune in tomorrow for the Soberhead podcast. We got another special guest coming on tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Stephanie R. She's going to share her experience, strength, and hope, and tell us about her company, Recovery is Essential. So this is Mike. Enjoy the rest of your night. Shalom.